Pressing record on this. I totally forgot to do that. This is we're in week 3 of our content team for ReelwUrld, talking about justice for hire. So we have Sensei Claus, aka Mike Saudino, on here. We have Creator, aka David Murray, on here. Eric, aka You Long, should join us in a second. And you, Sensei, so you brought up a really amazing point, because we're talking about the concept of I'm live editing right now, and while the live editing is happening, there's scenes that are being revealed, and now we can produce content around these scenes. And you're talking about who knows who. For example, your character, knowing Ruben, who plays Tai Chi Wonder, who gets beat up in this scene by Cowboy, you know him from before JFH in real life. So I think that when it comes to in character, I love the idea of you guys in character also knowing each other before JFH in real life. And maybe that's somehow how you both figured out, JFH. And maybe, I think we actually recorded the first day you came in, Sensei, and the first day that, I know we recorded the first day Ruben came in to train for the meetups. So I think it's totally possible that you guys like already knew each other. Then you found each other again at one of the JFH meetups, and then you're like, okay, cool. And so, I love that idea. David said, what about a character introduction episode? We can call it intro week. I'm interested, David, if you could write a little bit more about what you mean by that, because we have the hero profile videos, but I'm interested in what you mean by a character intro. Like what would you want to see from a character intro? Because I mean, a character intro can tie into, to a certain extent, what Mike's talking about. Because Mike, what you're essentially talking about is story world management. You're essentially saying, hey, like if we're going to create a story about, if we're going to react to a story that's in the main series, then our stories need to be kept straight. Like we need to understand what the sequence of events that led to this particular moment in this particular conversation was before we actually shoot that conversation. You're 100% right. That's exactly how story world management works. So I think to a certain extent, there's a conversation that you and Ruben might want to have, or maybe you write something and present it to him that clarifies that for you. And maybe that's a strong next step for us, especially like as a team, is just having like, where were you as a character before you were interacted with Cowboy? And I think it's really important for me to share that the Justice for Hire series, the way I'm contemplating editing right now, is that everything from 2018 to now is canonical. So essentially, like the stuff we were shooting in 2018, those first meetups are going to take place in 2018. So the Cowboy event would take place likely now, meaning at the present of the series as it's released. So like Cowboy and his narrative is actually what's going to carry us across multiple episodes, because it's going to be through his research into JFH characters that we're going to reveal our first season story arc. So we should meet based off of our defeat by Cowboy. I love that. I think that's interesting. And remember, if you guys have seen Do Ra Ra Ra, that a lot of the folks on TikTok mentioned as something that felt like JFH. Do Ra Ra Ra, the anime, has a chat. And just that chat in the Do Ra 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 series, they have chat and then they have voiceover. So they have a voiceover for every text message. And I love that idea that we could essentially shoot a screen, have your voiceovers for whatever the narrative is. And then like have screens like this for more in-depth conversation, and then cut to like footage that you shot on your phone of yourself taking some particular action, intercutting those dynamically, and then of course, referencing back to the premium footage of the series. Like that to me sounds like a pretty simple like that, like a very digestible, I should say, content formula. The
And I
chat,
like it.
yeah.
One thing specifically about that show, I haven't seen it. I'm familiar with the device. The key difference there is in that show, characters, when they're in the message boards, are all using fake names. So a main note is you don't know who is who.
Mm.
Here, with the exception of villains, you do. So similar presentation formula, but there isn't the element of anonymity where, again, I remember, so I heard about this from a friend. Because Japanese has different pronouns and a different pronoun structure than English does, there was a character who was a guy in real life, but in the message boards would use the pronouns of a woman to throw people off. That's something that seems to be very clever in that context that wouldn't work here. But just using the message board itself and leaving that stuff out, I think could be great.
So that's interesting. So I think that's it's a really key point. And I think that the device of, because essentially it's a storytelling device to a certain extent, the people in Do Ra 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 are acting as the chorus for like a Shakespearean play, right? Like they're essentially letting us know what's happening in the story at a particular point. If I remember the chorus function of the chorus correctly, that's what I believe that they were. That's what I believe it happens in Do Ra Ra Ra, because I never know who those characters are. I just they're essentially exposition.
That's why it's interesting. That's why that show works in its way. It's not a pure Greek chorus. They are the major characters. Again, I haven't seen the show myself, but I like narrative devices. So they aren't a Greek chorus in that sense. It's not pure exposition. It is actually advancing the plots because these characters are the message boards talking to each other and each trying to advance their agendas. You just don't know which person is which screen name. So that is a level of complexity I think we don't need. It works itself, but I wouldn't touch it.
From what I've seen, I've only seen 6 episodes of Do Ra Ra Ra, and up to this point, it seems like I have not, and maybe it gets more dynamic, but up to this point, I've only absorbed those scenes as essentially as exposition, and or they essentially set up what's about to happen next. It's like, and did you know that this happens? Boom, and then it's like, oh, the color gangs, and they have all this other stuff. So, but I taking that for us, and also taking the perspective that in this type of, for ReelwUrld, the whole reason ReelwUrld, can, I think a major component of how ReelwUrld can even operate is the understanding that any character has a story. So if you just walk across the screen once, Star Wars taught us that little mouse robot that goes by, that droid, it's like, oh my God, what's that droid? I want that droid. Like there's all this stuff behind every single character on screen. So I think taking that into account, excuse me, got a bunch of noise outside. But taking that into account, I think this device could actually help us really follow through with that and say, hey, like these are actual characters. Sensei is talking to creator, maybe they've never met before in person, and that's cool, because we don't necessarily need you guys to meet in person, but we definitely need because this is one of the things we've talked about in Hero Meetups before too. We need the nebulous space of that essentially allows us to all interact worldwide in one particular space that may not necessarily be have all, like everyone coming on Zoom is a particular thing, and like, but I think just being able to have that chat forum is going to be pretty powerful. But I mean, so using that, piggybacking off that idea, okay, David said, okay, I got it. Cowboy posts his victory against us on the app. He states that he's going to take out all wannabe heroes. We see the videos and seek each other out to form alliances. This would introduce the ally feature on the app. Wow. 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 Okay, so that's super interesting. That's super interesting. So, because it's super interesting because one, I was never contemplating having Cowboy on the app, but that makes total sense. That makes total sense because I was looking at him as a more old school kind of guy because he even carries a notebook around. But I think that's a really interesting way to poke at the heroes and the audience for him to post his victories against you guys on the app, and then like that causing conversation and challenges for us as a community. That's really interesting. What do you think
So
about that, Sensei?
I think that would work if he made the point that in character he's shaking the tree, you know?
Yeah.
So what's the term that hunters use for, getting the birds to fly?
Um, I've never shot an animal with a gun, so I'm
I
not
haven't either.
sure.
The only gun I fired is a Civil War musket,
Nice.
that shoots about as straight as a rainbow. But anyways, there's a term for basically if you're hunting and the birds are just happily staying on the dirt, you can't see them. You send a dog or something to get them into the sky so you can shoot them down. So I think that would work for his point of view too. Could make him an interesting character where he's got these two personas himself. He's pretending to be this just kind of weird, violent egomaniac, but the audience gets to learn he's really very tactical. He's not driven by ego, he's just looking for info.
Mm.
Maybe there's some ego there because he's human, but that's not what I'm getting at.
That's great. I mean, I like the idea of even his employer essentially saying, "I want you to post that on the app. I want you to shake things up a bit." Because he might be against it, but recognizing that's something that he could do, and I think that's really really interesting. So when it comes to, one of the things that I'm thinking about right now is relevance. And I say relevance, I mean, from a timing perspective, like there's so much content that we have right now that is unreleased. The purpose of this team on the Zoom right now is to get content out weekly that is, that helps to move the dial in terms of like expanding the message of what we're doing. So when it comes to that thinking, my only concern with making the content around the concern may be completely irrelevant, but my only concern around making the content around the anything that I'm editing is that it can't reference it. So here's where I'm actually answering my own question. So if it references what's being cut on the series too heavily, there's going to be a void of information because someone can't go and watch the series, and the percentage of people that are going to be like, oh, I'm going to go watch the live edit just to get this one piece of story information that isn't fully even cut yet. It's the conversion rate there is going to be much lower. So the solution here, because I'm thinking through this with you guys as I'm speaking, is essentially, and I'm open to any thoughts or opinions or different perspectives on this, but from what I'm feeling right now, the solution is for the content that you guys to create to be strong enough to stand on its own. And I think that's always the case, but now we're talking about story, right? So like previously, I think the last few weeks, and to a certain extent, I think for the most part, like there's been a lot of content created that's like little moments. and they're like these little moments that give you insight into a character's tone, but we don't necessarily know too much or enough or maybe even anything about I mean we know some things, but we don't know too much about Sensei Claus. We don't know too much about creator. And so when it comes to you guys creating some content that has a story around it, I think one of the things that's going to help us a lot, especially as we grow as a community, is how can we get people, how can we best equip people to shoot, to pick up their phone and shoot with confidence that everything they shoot will tie together. And of course, we have the journey challenges and all this other stuff. That's really about their origin story. And I think forwarding people to that is a fairly important thing to do. But I'm interested in your thoughts on this. Like, I mean, I know what the answer is for the legacy Hollywood filmmaking system, which is you write and you write and you write. And then you look at your writing, you edit, and then you write more, and then you edit. And then when you finally feel it's ready, then you shoot it. We're not going to do that. So I'm interested in what I'm saying. We're not going to do that. I mean, like, if you're already doing that, that's awesome. But that's too much to expect from somebody who's just picking up their phone and shooting and wants to just be a part of it and have fun. So I think together, I'm interested in your thoughts on how to create around this without you guys having to do, scripts upon scripts.
I would say to do a better version of what I've been trying to do. So I told you a while back that I made two characters that kind of have a passive aggressive dialogue with each other. The more inclusive and interactive way to do this would be to have characters using the app to communicate, right? So say you have something that could tie in how there's a lot of instructional material largely related to martial arts involved, right? You could have some guy say, hey guys, I'm working on my break falls. So this would in one way be kind of like the challenge, like push-up challenge and whatnot. Only it would have narrative structure where you'd say, hey, I'm trying to do a break fall, a better punch, whatever, and we're working on this. Or if it was something to do with creator, because I'm trying to make a costume, then that could be a prompt, usually in text. Or in video format, if he's showing, say, his form, doing push-up or whatever. Then the next guy says, oh, I got you, and makes a video responding to that. So that's how you take this instructional and challenge format and translate it into a narrative very quickly. It doesn't build much of a story as it is, but it's a chance to work kinks out.
So I think that's really, really interesting. It's good. The concept of chaining the videos together, but somehow every person taking their own part of the story. And I think that there's been stuff like that on TikTok too, where different people keep playing the same character, and that's where it breaks. Like, it breaks on TikTok for me as a viewer, because I don't want to see different people playing the same character. Like, that is inconsistent for me as a viewer. I want to see one character like do one thing that character is doing, or I want to see a bunch of characters do something really dope that that's interconnected in a really seamless and beautiful way. And David's saying, so the duet aspect of from TikTok. So I like that's, and I think that we have to differentiate ourselves because of story. Like, that's our big thing, right? Like, our big thing is being able to figure out ways of telling story together that's new and interesting.
So here's an example of something that I was just thinking of as you were going there. So going off of the thing with Cowboy and Ruben, right? Let's say we got Ruben in on this. The way to do it would be for him to hop onto the app, right? Make a post saying, so I had a really hard time with this guy. He beat me pretty bad. what can I do to improve, right? Then other people, get on the conversation feature and they ask him, well, what exactly did he do? Then depending on what we want to, so how much we want to use the main series, right? We could have cuts to the video that already exists, the fight scene, if we're going to be using that. It's an option. Say I haven't seen the video myself, but I'll watch after this if it's available. I don't know. That's not out, right?
No, it's not that. It won't be out for months. Like that's how, like we're in real production mode right now.
Yeah. So this is the kind of thing where we're talking hypotheticals then, if that's not out. But let's say, for argument's sake, Ruben and Cowboy are duking it out. And Ruben throws, something like a leg kick, and Cowboy comes over the top with a straight and knocks him out, right? So we'd say, I tried to go low and he went high and got me. So then we'd have videos of other characters trying to explain that or say, oh, you mean like this? And you could have them do it in their own particular character, in their own ways. Like say, Yulong, he would have his own way of getting into this, but say he would say, oh, so use this Tai Chi form like this one, and that defends the high punch, And Sensei Claus would say something stupid like, if you fall over, he can't hit you in the head. Just fall over after you kick. So on and so forth. So you get a dialogue held together with the text, but then you could cut between little video clips. So say.
So I love that. I love. Well, what's coming to mind right now is like all of this conversation has to amount to actionable steps to create content this week. And when thinking about actionable,
the actionable step is I start because I have two characters, so I can play off myself without really needing of other people. Mm-hmm. It's just we need other people sooner rather than later, or that gets really boring.
Sure, I'm totally with you. And check. So this is what I'm thinking. Like, and we have diagrams like this as well. So essentially, like we know one line, one storyline, right? This is one storyline. So I think the process here is going to be essentially like we know that the catalyzing moment is Ruben punching. Ruben gets a back fist to the head and drops when confronted with Cowboy. He checks a kick, takes a back fist to the head. So after that, and of course the characters, this is he's not video recording his mission or anything like that. He was on mission, but he was just delivering some groceries, so he didn't video record it. So there's no shared footage, user generated footage from in character footage that anyone could see from here. So when it comes to Cowboy, so that being said, we're going from essentially an incident happening and somehow Ruben telling you, and it's important to note that this scene that we're talking about today, that it's the first one I'm cutting, actually takes place chronologically after Creator meets him. It's part of a montage. So Creator, I think this comes into this lets you know where you are in the story, and essentially, if Creator was over here, this happened with Tai Chi Wonder, and now you guys are talking about. Let's slide this up. This is Creator happening. This is Tai Chi Wonder happening, and then Sensei, you have an encounter that's after that as well. So our storyline, we have three of you with three encounters. Our storyline can take place in between these, or it can take place after. And I think all of those points are interesting. I'd be interested to know what happened after the first one of you encountered Cowboy. However, I guess the question then is, because I can essentially put together a little slot, a little just like these like little slots of, hey, let's put a video in here for Sensei before he encounters Cowboy and after he encounters Cowboy. Let's get a video here before creator encounters Cowboy and after he encounters Cowboy. But I think that the more dynamic thing is, rather than just having these singular world videos, is you guys interacting and having some sort of dynamic conversation, hence the do rah 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 reference. So what resonates most with you guys in terms of where in the timeline should we tell a dynamic team story? Or and when I say a dynamic team story, I mean, it could be as simple as a conversation with you guys, between Sensei, between creator, and maybe it's just between you two. And maybe since you play two characters, maybe Professor Beowulf is in there too, but I'm not sure if you play two characters because they're two separate characters in character, or because you're in character one hero who dresses up in different outfits.
For different guys.
Okay, the different people. Okay, so
that's what we argue all the time. I was thinking that'd be a good way to build rapport, because people argue on the internet.
Okay.
So on the surface, you have one guy who is Western martial arts, one guy who's Eastern martial arts. And they disagree for no reason, because if you be on the internet, we've seen this a million times. People who are 80% the same will disagree for the rest of their lives on the last 20%. They never get tired of it.
So David just posted this in here. He said, after we encounter Cowboy would be better. So I think this is really interesting, because Sensei, your encounter with Cowboy is pretty funny to me. It brings an air of lightheartedness to JFH like right away, and that's super dope. So I'm wondering if maybe it takes place after creator encounters Cowboy. Let me actually just look at the script. So that's the smartest thing to do. Got the script right here. Here, meetup. There we go. Counter a Cowboy. So who gets hit last? Actually, I'm happy to share. Let me share my screen so you guys can see it. Screen share. All right. Okay, so this is Enter the Cowboy. And this is the first scene of New York City street. This is creator. We shot all of this, which is great. And then we start the montage. And the montage is we have Selena. We have forgot who we changed this scene from the Tomahawk training facility. I forgot who we added there. We have Tai Chi Wonder. You know what I think we did? I think that we changed the Tomahawk training scene to the Sensei Class scene, which is great. So that means that you know what this is? You know what this really is, actually? Now that I'm reading this, I'm so happy I'm reading this right now. This is essentially the Enter the Cowboy challenge. And it might be really, really dope. Let me end this screen share. It might be really dope, since we have this universe event. It's on the app, and I think last year folks it was a new event, and people were like, oh, what is this Enter the Cowboy thing? And they did some videos, and the videos are good, and they'll be helpful. But I think the thing is that we need to have some form of like, for example, Sensei, I would love it if I saw a video of you as Sensei Claus. saying that when you find that, when you find that cowboy, when you see that cowboy, he's got it coming, something like that. And then we cut to you actually like running away from him, which is hilarious. You're eating noodles, and then you're like, he tries to trip you. I think that's hilarious. And like a strong voice, because I know Sensei something's like can speak very, very, very low and soft. But I think like a strong voice, like if I see that cowboy coming, if I see it coming, him coming, he's got it coming. Something like that could be really, really dope to tie these stories together, because we actually have a universe event that serves the purpose that we're talking about right now. What were you saying?
Oh, just if I go loud with that voice, it turns into a Hunter S. Thompson impression.
That's funny. Well, I'll say as loud as loud enough for captions to hear it. Like the captions on YouTube or Instagram. Just loud enough so that we can hear it, so we can hear that, so that the comedy comes across and people are, we don't want the comedic moment missed because they couldn't hear some of it. But I mean, don't go louder than you need, like louder than you need to maintain the character.
Yeah, sure. I can definitely do that. I usually shoot that stuff during the day, so I can do it tomorrow.
And creator, I think for you, and we'll still figure out. I mean, I think we were having a really intelligent, like group conversation on like connecting all these dots to Ruben getting beat up. I still think that that's valuable, but I also want to make sure that we're the intention behind this call today was to, because there's so much work that needs to be done for the ReelwUrld campaign and the equity crowdfunding. And anyone who's watching, you can invest on wefunder.com/WeFunder.com/ReelwUrld, ReelWurld. And of course, you can join the cast of Justice for Hire from justiceforhire.app. But when it comes to these meetings, like I'm really hoping that we can get to a point where, you guys have your own kind of creative think tank, and I'm coming in and being as helpful as I possibly can at the execution, ideation, execution of that. But like, did you guys have a groove? So I want to find out. And if Monday's not the day that's best for you, if you're going to be working on Mondays, then maybe we need to find a different day. Maybe it's I don't know, not a Monday. So let us know your schedule too, because I want to make sure this works for everybody. But I think that it, let's keep the thunderclap this week for the same time, and maybe we'll just keep it the same time every week at 3:30 p.m. on Thursday. If you guys ever have an issue with that, just let me know prior. But when it comes to and if you have an issue, like just do it when you can. But if you can do it at the same time, I think that's really valuable. Let's see. But yeah, I think right now it's let's make this week's about just taking on the universe event on the missions page of justiceforhire.app. So, and it's the Enter the Cowboy mission. So creator, yours can be before or after you encounter him too. So, and this is where we start to connect the dots of, I still think we should shoot something dope when it comes to like the do rah 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 thing, but that might be something that I cut into the series anyway, because I really want to make sure that the hero, we talked about transitions and hero transitions on the last meetup, but being able to create bridges between scenes, between story moments, not just a Batman style transition, but I mean like an actual story bridge using that do rah 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 device with our cast chat, or I think it's going to be pretty dope. Our hero chat. So let's keep that idea, and I'll write that down in my series notes, because I have a long series notes thing where I'm like pulling stuff. I'm like, okay, this needs to go here. But yeah, this week let's make it David, why don't you, Michael, why don't you go for it?
Yeah. So you made me think of something now, right? Another key difference between do a rah rah rah, I don't remember how you say that, is that in that it's a bulletin board system, right? There's no such thing as the DM in that. So hey, we have not just the cast chat, there's the option to also show DMs.
That's true. That's true. Yes, we can. I think so. We have the option. I think that what we're essentially doing here is like when we're attempting to figure out some form of consistency so that it feels like a beat, right? And like if you think about a movie as completely, all the elements of it are essentially math. Music is math, and so we're essentially doing our best to create rhythm with rhythm and tone with all the different elements, from the character arcs to the visuals to the sound, etc. So let's figure out which one works best. I think the concept, the do rah 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 is going to be valuable because of the fact that, because if it's not a DM, not to say that we can't switch it up, but if it's not a DM, the DM is a different sound than the cast chat or than the group chat. So all we have to do, as long as we keep that in mind and know that if we switch, the sound switches even ever so slightly. Like when we do that should be very intentional. So, but I do like the idea of getting like you, Tai Chi Wonder, like all you guys just to kind of like chat for a second, doing a screen record and shooting that from another camera as you type and moving around to get that kind of lens. That there's a really dope lens that the do rah 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 chats are done on, like really, really cool. So I think we can do something similar.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't use cast chat. I'm saying we have an option they didn't have.
Okay. Yeah, that's yeah. No, I'm like just writing this down right now. Let me just take this real quick because this is really good. Chat team. Okay. Guys, I think we're good. I mean, I think that we'll figure out what the thunderclap is this week, but let's I think it's like whether you want to do it before or after, it's up to you. Let's just make it as long as you can go onto the app and let me know if it's on the missions. You go into you press the yin yang, you press hero, and then you scroll down and it should be the bottom one. It should say universe event and it's enter the cowboy. So if you could take that on this week, and obviously like taking it on means posting in the app, but of course, please shoot your video outside of the app so we can post it on social and have it, obviously tag Justice for Hire too, please. So people can get Justice for Hire and ReelwUrld. So people can get an understanding of like, oh, this is tied to this larger story world.
Yeah, like I said, I think we have a clear day tomorrow, so I'll make a Sensei Claus video and we can see what's next from there.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Creator, does that sound good to you too? Yep. Okay. Awesome. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you guys, both of you guys so much, as usual. And like I said in the beginning, like, please think about just ways that we can keep on improving our system. The system of these meetings, the timing of these meetings, the thinking behind them, and essentially the culture that we're building, because that's what we're foundationally building, a culture, a company culture, but we're also impacting like culture, global culture. So like just keep on thinking about how we can best improve and keep on elevating the service that we're providing. So, and please let me know how I can improve too. Okay?
So we run today, I think it's a really good start because, this is very new media focused, and this whole thing about TikTok and all that, it would be very much new ground to be using that kind of thing in a narrative structure. Where in I've seen narrative structures applied to so many things now. There are entire ridiculous shows made in Minecraft now. I'm not watching these things, but they exist and they have massive followings. You know, Minecraft YouTubers will play characters, voice over all this. In Minecraft, it's insane. But this is a real thing that's happening right now.
Hmm.
So I like the idea of us using an app that is on some level, you know, to do with both the real world and also something that's very much online and putting these things in tandem. Again, mostly online because it's just easier production, you know?
Hmm.
People don't have to be in the same place. It's more convenient. But that could really be the angle to take, because then when you see something that's the characters interacting in real life, it's a huge moment for the audience. So this is a weird example, but a friend of mine, he's an animator. I knew him in high school. He was also a voice actor. He recently got me too, and so I know how he's doing these days, but last I talked, not too great. He spent years making a very niche popular animated series that was about characters meet each other online. If you know Dot Hack Sign, it was a bit like that. But lots of independent talent, at lots of people who are big in nerd culture, like you see at a convention circuit. And he was making the show for years. There was first one was animated with sprites, very low budget. Then the one that was actually animated. And the big climax of the show that the audience gets to see after 2 shows and maybe a decade of production is just the main characters meeting in real life for the first time.
Mm.
So I'm not saying we go for that because we don't want that kind of build up. It's not that kind of concept. But it's just the most comparable thing to me is that people were so invested in this one moment after years of production, after all this stuff that takes place online. The final minute of the series is just a bunch of people in a room saying hi.
Which series is this again?
So it's actually 2, but with same characters. The first one that was really old and janky with sprite animation was the Newgrounds thing.
What is it again?
What?
Newgrounds in?
No, that was a Newgrounds thing. You know Newgrounds?
Newgrounds.
It's a website that featured a lot of animation back in the day.
Okay.
So the old one, I wouldn't say touch that because it's really amateurish. It's the kind of thing where if you brought them now, I'd be embarrassed. That's TTA. And the new one is just Tome. I'm just going to send you a link. It's getting hard to find.
Please do.
Give me a sec before you go.
Yes, that's super interesting. Like as you just contemplating that, I mean, people are going to get so excited when it comes to exactly that meeting. And thank you so much. Meeting in person, you know, to somehow I'm recording this unnecessarily, but meeting in person, people are going to get really, really amped about that concept. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people invested in the idea of, oh wow, this is, you know, these characters. I followed Sensei Claus, I followed Creator, and now I get to see them actually do something together. I think that you know, we're kind of banking on people not only wanting to see characters come together, but to actually be those characters and want to come together. So like to a certain extent, that's the major component of what we need to have happen. But the only way that's going to happen is by us being like really dynamic with our and intentional with the stories, no matter how small they are. Like if we're shooting 15 seconds, that 15 seconds needs to be like very intentional. And I think it's gonna every week. I feel like we're getting better. Every week I think we're getting more intentional. And as the live editing of the series happens, I feel like we're gonna have more and more conversation around and more content placed in the app that pulls content that creates more activity around story beats. Like, oh, all this happened in the story. Oh, okay, look at all this social activity of like content created around that one story beat. And so it's going to be really important. So thank you, man. I'll check this out in a little bit. And I love you so much, and so grateful for you. And let's let me know if you have any questions to execute or need any support.
I guess I know I'm going to have some later. I guess my thought process right now is largely about stirring up engagement, because I think this is a very good direction we've talked about right now, where we're looking at making this more narrative focused, because that does elevate it from kind of what I've been doing, which is basically just the same as everybody else on TikTok or Instagram in my interest field, where putting in narrative context absolutely makes it something different. Not to get too into things that have narratives now, but you know that people have been making Let's Plays for games that don't exist?
No.
It's very creative. I don't watch these things, but I watch media about them because they're always really long. But that's the kind of territory we're into, only this is a lot more mainstream potential.
If you could send me one of those as well. So I don't fully understand what like the Let's Play is. That like I've heard of it before, but I don't know exactly what it is.
So a Let's Play is a video. It's kind of like a stream where they can be streamed, right?
For like tabletop games, right?
Yeah, a Let's Play is something that kind of predates streaming, but also exists with it, where it's a video of somebody playing a game. Now, there's this one in particular that I've been hearing about called Petscop, which is a very brilliant concept. I haven't actually watched it for myself, but the basic idea is there's a guy who made a game, or at least the surface level of a game, just so he can make a Let's Play about it. But he himself is a character, and of course the game is haunted because that's how these things work, but I'll send you a video from that, or I mostly watch the breakdowns of these things because they always have lots of hidden information made for people who really, really like to dig. And I don't want to dig for a hobby. I do that for my job sometimes, So, but yeah, I'll send you a link to Petscop. That's the most famous one.
Please do.
But it's very clever. I would never think to, sit down and program a game just so I could show myself playing it.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It sounds super. It sounds like I mean, all of this stuff is essentially connected to the same like innate desire that I think we're touching on with what we're doing with ReelwUrld and JFH. So please share. And like I said, if you have need any support on executing, let me know. And we're on it.
So optimistically, I think the main thing is going to gather people into it, because I've always had this idea that when it comes to content creation, some people are going to be more consistent, some people are going to have easier time at it. And this is supposed to be JFH, where I don't want to be the one making stuff, because that just becomes, a setting for Sensei Clause, and that's not the point.
You're saying that you want to get more people into your videos.
Just in general, right? So say that I think that Sensei Claus works as a character within a greater setting,
Mhm.
But the version of him that I came up with is very much exists within JFH. Where if you take, the usual superhero examples, you have characters like, say, Iron Man, who's done very well in his own movies, right? Then you have characters like the Hulk, and to a lesser extent Thor, that are not so great on their own. Just going off of recent experiences, I haven't seen most of these things, but I know Iron Man movies have done great, and the Hulk movies have not. The Thor movie I really enjoyed, had the Hulk in it, so
Yes.
that's kind of the wash.
Yes, that is the best, in my opinion, the best of the Thor movies.
Yeah, so you get the idea. You can't have solo acts that work. That's really not the point here. The point is to make a cinematic universe. That's the mission statement.
Hmm.
It doesn't really work to have a cinematic universe if there's one character who's a joke character who's dominating the content.
Well, when you say dominating the content, you mean of the greater community content?
Well, I mean, basically what I was thinking is if I make too much stuff, which I'm not doing right now because I'm bad at editing. So right now, it's my main bottleneck. Is I'll put together stuff and I'll re-record it. Like you saw that video I made back during the summer of me tripping over a dumbbell, right?
Yes.
I must have made 50 takes of that. And it's a short video, so it's not long takes. It didn't take me a week, but it took me all day. So that's the thing. I'm still working things out, but the content I make is easy to make. So I don't want to be the only one making this content that reaches the point of cinematic universe, It's like we have Justice League, we have Batman, but if it's just Batman, there's no Justice League.
Well, you know what, man? I think that you ask you present a really interesting question here, concept here, and maybe the thing to do for you, because I think that your story, your source world, we're calling it, which is not JFH, but is wherever Sensei Claus comes from. That the surroundings and the story and how he became Sensei Claus and all this other stuff, all of that can be articulated through shooting one video each of the journey challenges on the app right now. And I think
so back when I was offering to write short stories for people, I wrote one about how he developed. So it's mundane. He's not really from the North Pole. That's just something he says. The actual story that I wrote up is that he's basically a sad little kid that learned martial arts from a biker who looked kind of like Santa.
That's awesome.
Big beard.
That's awesome. That's actually really powerful.
Did I ever send that to you?
You might have, but I can check back. There's a lot of people who sent backstory stuff on the IG chat, and I'm hoping that IG has kept certain things, because I feel like some stuff that I feel like just looks like, I'm like, oh, didn't I have a conversation with this person? And now the conversation looks like we never had one. So I'm hoping they don't delete conversations.
So not a focus right now. We should get back to that at some point in the future, because the reason why I wrote that one was I wanted to show people how you write something that's long enough to tell a story, but short enough that the modern reader doesn't lose interest. So it's almost exactly a page and a half, maybe 300 words, which for people these days is just about right. You can't expect people to sit down and read a full book, but if you can put together a full narrative arc in about 200 to 400 words, you can get them being satisfied, but wanting more later. So that's what I was trying to push with that.
I'm
Not
checking
that,
to see.
yeah.
I'm checking to see if we have, if you ever sent me any of this stuff. And the reason I'm checking right now is because I feel like you, whatever you have written, um, might be really valuable to just paste into your backstory. Like the reason people were sending me this stuff is because they wrote backstories, and there's a piece, there's a space on your hero profile to essentially, you know, uh, share backstory.
Oh yeah, no, that's there. I put it there so I could check the formatting.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's on the app. I remember I put it there as a bug test because originally the backstory wasn't letting me indent.
Oh yeah, I got some backstory stuff from you right here. Okay, well, I mean, you know, so just to be super clear, you having like we know the assignment this week is the focus this week is for the mission of the cowboy mission. You can figure out where in the timeline you want to talk about that, before or after you encounter cowboy.
I was thinking
So
before me, after Ruben.
before you, after Ruben. Okay, yeah, it's great because you could say, hey, my buddy Tai Chi Wonder, got into this thing. That, I mean, however you want to put it out there, and you can, like the context should be like a warn. It should be in character, in story world warning, or it could be anything you want, but it has to be in character. And and since you're putting it on the app, um, if you are making a hey guys, I saw this cowboy, be cautious kind of thing, um, that's great. But it could also be something else. It could also be a scene where you're thinking about something, like it could be any creatively anything you want. But I'm just giving you general concept. But outside of that, it might be really valuable, especially if you want other people in your thing. Like I told Anna this, you remember Anna, she's going to start shooting stuff with her family in New York, and I think that's really powerful for her to shoot story with her family. It's a new way for her to interact with her family and to capture the moment that she currently has in life with them, which is awesome. But it's also like getting them to. She thought they were characters. I'm like, that's awesome. That's a really really cool concept. So if in the event there are people in your surrounding area, like whether family or friends or just other heroes, to be able to figure out where you want them to use that journey challenge list and say, hey, you know what, right here, these are two places where I could talk to a hero. This is where I could or talk to somebody about what my character is going through. I feel like you going through those journey challenges will actually be really, really powerful and important. So I would like to put that on the list for you, in terms of, like, if you're thinking about what kind of content to make, just do the journey challenges in order. Like that to me is actually going to be really valuable for people to see that.
Gotcha. So if nothing else, is a template in place.
Yeah, if nothing else, it is the example of what we mean. And if you have any questions, and I'm not going to ask this. Maybe I'll ask this for the whole team, but I'm definitely asking you. Like, if there's any, like, if you could go through those 15 challenges, and this is about your story prior to JFH and maybe coming into JFH, that's really where the origin comes in. You can there's a moment, I think it's somewhere like 7, that is when JFH comes into the picture, because it doesn't have to be JFH centric. And so just you telling that story, I think is going to be a really wonderful test for us of how people are receiving this.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna put the cowboy video first.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. And the challenges, I'll probably do them in the context just that they're described as. Like I said, I wrote a backstory. I think for the time being, that should be just as backstory, because it's set. I believe in taking advantage of whatever medium you use. And the great thing about writing is, in writing, there's no casting, right? You can have whoever you want. So it's a short story that actually takes place over several years. Right, this old biker that he meets is kind of like a father figure to Sensei Claus, who trains him as he's growing up. So the story happens over maybe 9 years of just them training together in an alley. So again, I'm leaving that alone completely for now because you need to have 3 different characters playing Sensei Claus, different ages, and one of them's gonna have to be a child actor. You know what nightmare that is. Then maybe 2 guys playing the old biker, So for that, I would be very happy to leave that alone for now. But I can absolutely do the challenges as they are in the app.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, like pull in. I mean, I think that's one of the it is an example of gracefulness for you to be able to tell your story, whatever part of your story you want, using those journey challenges and leaving out anything that you feel like should be explored in greater detail later. So for you to say, hey, I have this backstory, there's this biker guy and all this other stuff, that's really cool. You don't have to dive into all of that. You can still say little things here and there about your story that don't necessarily infringe upon your creative freedom based on what you might have in the vault later on or right now.
Creative freedom, it's just logistics and expenses,
No, I totally get it. And that's what I mean by to a certain extent creative freedom. It's like, hey, creatively, I want to do this, but I don't have necessarily these resources to do that. So maybe I'll either instead think of something else, or I'll hold on to that and be creative about how I show what I do want to show, what I can show now, and leave the mystery to the things that I want to do later. Like leave that out intentionally. So as long as you do it intentionally, and again, we're still figuring out what the process, how these things work. I shot all 15 journey challenges for Neeks, who's a hero in our community, like 2 summers ago. We still haven't cut that because it's supposed to be, part of the series. Like it'll come out in timing with the right timing. But I shot it and I was like, okay, well, this can work, but it takes a lot of editing. So or it takes enough editing for me to be like, okay, this is not as, this is a good start, but we need to improve. And I'm also thinking about it from one angle. So somebody else may think about it from a totally different angle and actually may work even better. So I think it's good right now. And what I mean by, if I did it in one shot, there's going to be, if without an app like Video Leap on my phone, which is phenomenal, I keep recommending it. Without an app like that, it's tough to say, hey, I'm going to shoot this thing, but then I'm going to put a voiceover on it. And then that way I have one shot that's intentional and I have one voiceover that's intentional. And now I'm telling my story. Not to say that you have to do everything in voiceover, because you don't, but voiceover might be very
last week. Yeah, it was challenging. I wound up not doing it.
Okay.
But give it a try.
So I'm not sure what's available for Android. I do think they have Video Leap for. Let me see if they have Video Leap. Have you checked out Video Leap?
No.
Let me see. Video Leap. I am blown away by how do they have it? Does Android have Video Leap? Yes, they do.
Okay, have a look.
Yeah, they have it, and I'll send you the, like, it's really for somebody like me who I've edited for so long, and I love it, but it's just videoleapapp.com. And you don't need to purchase it, it's free, but like they have a paid tier that they want you to, that they add, I guess is trying to get me to do.
Worth it. So
Yeah, you
last
don't.
thing on the backstory. What?
Say it again.
Oh, I said if it's worth it, but
No, you don't need to purchase it. It's in the App Store. It's worth it. It's a free app. They have a paid subscription version too, but you can use the free one just fine. And again, like what I'm getting at is that for you to be able to take a shot, and because especially if you have challenges with editing, when I want to edit something and I want to be creative, and it's not just want, I have to cut something, and I want to do it with ease rather than like sitting at where I am sitting right now and like cutting and being very sharp with everything. I go to Video Leap when I know that it doesn't have to be too sharp, but it'll get the point across. I still make it sharp. If you saw my announcement video for the Tai Chi push hands tournament, like I cut that on Video Leap, and it took me, maybe like 2 hours to in total to do that. But like all of it on Video Leap, and I was like, man, this is way better than like me doing this, while I'm at my son's art class and while he's like asleep next to me, is way better than having to sit at my editing station surrounded by hard drives and I can't have my son here, etc. So like it is way less stressful to do it with Video Leap. So I highly recommend it, and I recommend trying it out because the voiceovers I've done. If you saw my Valentine's Day video, like I did all those voiceovers on Video Leap you could just turn it on, just speak right into the phone, or you can use headphones, etc. So I think that'll supercharge your ability to make things with ease. So let me know how that goes for you.
I'll check it out. But last thing on the backstory, I think that could work as a very short comic.
I mean, it totally could work as a short comic. Like it just depends on
pages.
I'll say this in comics, sure, that's great. Like having, I just look at everything as a production. Like comics are a production that have four layers. Pencils, inks, colors, letters. So like and maybe you just do pencils, or maybe you just do inks and all that other stuff. But like really trying to get the point across of your story. I just think about like what is truly the easiest way for us to do that, and like there's no doubt in my mind that this is it. It's just pulling it out and shooting it, and then it's just a matter of like like what if we're going to put production time into something, like what's the best way to do that? And my intention, like I think Santa Claus is a fun, hilarious, and upbeat character, and like ideally we get to a point where we can shoot that kind of scene, that your backstory, etc. In a more detailed and a premium way. So I think it's just a matter of figuring out what we're doing now and how to do that well, and then we can always go back and fill in backstory.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, because I thought of when you were talking, that could be something that could, again, a lot of stuff I talk about in these meetings is really not meant for even necessarily this year. There's certain things that are a priority right now and some things that might be relevant later. This is one of those things where I think a lot of people would like their own comic, even if it's short. Where it's definitely not something that would be sustainable to make feature, real comics for everybody. But lots of people who develop a character, they might like to see that character just developed in that kind of short form. Or something else. Did you see the avatar I used to that Professor Beowulf account?
Yes, the drawing, yes.
Yeah. So the artist I used for that, she's available for more work. So anybody else we talk to who likes that art style, we could have a character like that done in a day or two.
That's beautiful.
So little things like that.
Man, I'm so grateful for all the creative energy you put into this, and even creating another character, man. It's getting us it's helping us to get to where we need to go, and it's a big deal, man. So I'm just so much gratitude for you and your creative energy, and thank you for even talking for this long on these subjects, because again, these meetings are really supposed to be about like actionable steps for this week, and ideally we cap them at 30 minutes. But I feel like we just did a development call too for not just Sensei, but also just like in general, like what the value that we're attempting to bring for the JFH community, man. So thank you so much. And I've got to jump for 5 o'clock my time, but I love you, man. And like I said, for the cowboy thing, just let me know if you need anything, and we'll get it done. And thank you, everybody. Thank you. And thank you, everybody who watches these things. Like I said, justiceforhire.app is where the cast is gathering. That's where production is happening. So we're live editing on twitch.tv/justiceforhire 5 days a week, if not more, at least 5 days a week. So I'll be on tonight. And if you want to invest in our studio, making movies and shows of the world, that's ReelwUrld.com. And you can get to the invest button from there, or you can go to WeFunder.com/ReelwUrld and invest directly from WeFunder, and which is the only place you can invest. So, and you can own part of the company, and it's a great time. So love you guys, and have a great week. Talk to you soon, man. Thank you, bro.
Take care. Be in touch.